Okay, first question, guys.
First question. So this is for Rhett. I just wanted to see if you could go a little bit into the background and history of, you were talking the other day about the inflation and once we fork, we'll be in a unique situation. So could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So when Satoshi created Bitcoin, he intentionally set a 21 million hard limit of the coin supply, right? And the reason for that was, part of the reason was because we had this financial crisis in 2008, and it was largely due to this system we have of the fiat dollar in the United States, where the Federal Reserve can print as much money as they want. And then there was this $800 billion bailout to the banks, and there's quantitative easing. And we now, the Federal Reserve's books have grown from 4 trillion to 8 trillion in the past few years, which, you know, I don't know. There's that whole side of the, I guess I don't know what you call it. The reason why a lot of people got into Bitcoin, right, was that there needed to be this promise of a limited supply commodity that no government or no central authority could just print more of. And I believe that's really important to the Bitcoin community. Now, that is not important, for example, to the Ethereum community. In Ethereum, there's 5 Ethereum that gets introduced to the supply every block, and that can go on for infinity, right? So there's this problem where we have not seen what happens to Bitcoin when the block subsidy sort of goes away, and now all of the mining is incentivized through fees alone. So right now we actually have pretty regular stable blocks, and that may be because there's this block subsidy right now in Bitcoin of 2.5 or 12.5 coins, right, that usually vastly outweighs the fees. And so with what we've seen in the past with Bitcoin is actually every time there's a halving, so when it goes from 50 coins to 25 to 12.5, the inflation rate drops, right, of new coins. And then generally, the price of Bitcoin has gone up. Now, that may or may not be because of the halving, right? But it's unknown what's going to happen once we start reaching lower and lower inflation levels. So there's some people, as far as, I hate to speculate on price, right? But there's the question is, well, there's less supply being introduced by miners. So miners are now, there's less for them to dump onto the market. But there's a question of will the network be able to operate in a stable, censorship-resistant way if you're giving less reward to the miners, right? So with the way that we are forking Z Classic and Bitcoin Private, we'll actually be closer to over 19 million, maybe 20 million coins. So there will only be 1 million or less left to mine throughout the whole history of Bitcoin Private, right? Assuming that one of the promises of Bitcoin and Bitcoin forks is keeping this limited supply under 21 million coins. And so we don't know how that will play out, right? We don't know what that will mean. And I see it as potentially a very good thing, being one of the lowest inflation Bitcoin forks. But also, it would be really interesting to see how that affects the mining and the network stability. So does that kind of answer?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great.
Other questions? You guys are going to make me go all the way across the room every time. There you go. Who you asking?
So this one's for Rhett again. On the subject of on-chain atomic transactions, I think saw somewhere about Litecoin figuring out how to do that with Monero. And is there any I guess, way that, we could figure out how to do that with Bitcoin Private and Z Classic as far as security tokens go and atomic transactions on-chain?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So, I guess like my own personal feeling is that, about that is that atomic swaps are really cool from a technical point of view, but they almost never happen, right? Because maybe has it happened like once between Bitcoin and Litecoin? I don't know. It's probably happened a handful of times between some of these chains, right? And people really like to nerd out about it, and it's really cool because it's a way that you can swap cryptocurrencies without relying on a central exchange, right? And we all know that we hate putting our cryptocurrencies, leaving them in the central exchange where they can get hacked. And so you want this way of doing that in a trustless way between chains. But the reality is that if you try to set up an atomic swap, it would be very expensive to try to run some sort of decentralized order book for that, and you may, in fact, it may cost you a Bitcoin fee or a Litecoin or a fee every time you even try to place an order in this decentralized order book, right? And then you'll have to wait minutes for this trade to go through. And what people actually like is high volume, higher speed, lower fee trading, which is why there will always be more liquidity on these centralized exchanges where people can do thousands of trades per second and see order books like moving really quickly. And so, with Bitcoin Private, the vision of Bitcoin Private is I think we really want to focus on actual economic market adoption. So, Bitcoin Private right now is an underlying platform with one of the lowest fees and the fastest block times, and a Bitcoin fork with extra privacy. And so we want people to build applications on top of that actually sort of use a lot of, I guess, real world economic value. And so until we get to the point where we actually see use cases where like there's a lot of demand, economic demand for atomic swaps happening in a high volume way, that would be the point where we'd really want to start focusing resources to try to capture some of that value. But right now it's really kind of just I see it as kind of just like a academic exercise mostly, except for maybe like a few cases. But definitely, I mean, we'll definitely want to support like these kinds of contracts and things in the future. So.
And if you're watching this at home, guys, if you want to leave any questions in the live chat, I'll be monitoring it. As long as it's not a troll comment, I'll be answering those. Well, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, go ahead.
This question is for Jake and Rhett.
Take it first since Rhett seems to be doing all the hard work.
Given the fork date and the snapshot date, have you reached out to any of the exchanges, i.e. Bittrex or anyone else, whether or not we're going to have to move coins off if you have them on there?
Yeah, so it's really weird having the first question to me not be when fork, so it's kind of nice. Of course, the second question is one I literally am not allowed to answer. It's just, the whole thing is, we're not allowed to talk about it. Ty has actually a much better explanation than me. I'll let him explain to you why it is not good business for us to talk about it. I can't even tell you if I've talked to them, literally. So Ty will give you a better explanation.
Okay, guys. So we get this question all the time on our channel of when a particular token gets listed on an exchange. Every time people hear us talk about a particular coin on our channel, they want to know who's going to list it on the exchange, when is it, and there's several things that you guys want to consider. First of all, if it's a legitimate project, okay? The team that is building that cryptocurrency project more than likely they do not want to violate any U.S. financial laws by reaching out to the exchange. If it's a utility token, it's almost, there's some financial issues. And now keep in mind, guys, I am a trader and an investor in cryptos. I am not an attorney. I'm not, far from it, okay? But my understanding is, my extremely limited understanding from talking to our lawyers and talking to other legal people that are licensed to talk about these things, right, or understand these things, is that if the project is a legitimate project, more than likely they will not be able to discuss, they cannot approach the exchanges to request a listing. It's not because of the cost of the listing fee, it's because there's some kind of financial laws and regulations that if you try to go and get it listed on the exchange, that there's, it can be construed as a security token, right? So if it's a legitimate project, when you go ask them and they say we don't know or we cannot discuss about it, it's not because they don't want to tell you, it's because if they're trying to comply with US laws, they're not going to tell you if they are doing it, or usually they are not doing it. Okay, it's usually a third party or somebody else that has an interest in it, right, that is going to try to work to get it listed. Now, the listing fee, guys, is usually between a few $100,000 that I've heard of to a few $1 million to get a coin listed on an exchange. Part of that requirement of that listing process is that you have to, the project or whoever it is that's working on getting it listed has to sign some confidentiality agreements that they won't disclose how it's being listed, and there's a huge process that they go through, okay? Because if it's a legitimate project, they are going to comply with those confidentiality agreements and not disclose anything. So if you hear, one of the things that we look out for when we look at a cryptocurrency project is if they answer, they tell the public when they're going to get listed on the exchange, more than likely we probably don't want to focus on that project simply because they are either violating US laws, and even if they're not violating US laws, they're violating business confidentiality agreements. If you sign a business agreement with someone and you agree that you're not going to disclose publicly until the exchange discloses it, that the coin is being listed, the fact that that project is willing to disclose publicly when it's going to be listed, more than likely they are probably not, the highest integrity. You guys follow me? So asking a legitimate project and pressing them when their token is going to be listed, if they are a legitimate project, they're not going to answer you. And even if they did know, they would violate laws if they did disclose that. And if the projects want to work with the exchange for future updates and wallet updates and stuff, they're not going to break that confidentiality agreement because they need that exchange to update wallets and future business activities. So the more that that project does not know when they're listed, it gives me a little bit more confidence. So hopefully that helps you guys out so that you guys don't press Jake or Rhett or others.
I just wanted to add really quickly, you can get the microphone again if he wants it, or Kirk is technically next. I just wanted to add, we have an awesome Electrum wallet because of our awesome developers, so you should just use that.
Step on second base.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Kirk?
I just wanted to ask real quick for the audience. One thing I hear Ty and Leon say a lot is community adoption and developer adoption and support is a big long-term factor on the success of a coin. So just pointing out for the audience how simple it is for both community involvement and also for developers to contribute.
Oh, so that was just a comment?
No, just how do
Who are you asking?
For Rhett, how developers get involved and contribute?
So we have I have just people coming, they're tweeting at me all day long saying they want to contribute, and they have there's a very wide range and variance in their skill levels, but I try to direct everyone to Discord. And we have a community Discord channel, which I'm sure, where's the easiest way to get an invite to that? To the community Discord?
Just come talk to me, or depending on what you want to do, if you come to our public Discord, we have all of the leads of the specific areas, whether that's marketing or development, wallet development, blockchain development, designing, motion design, everything. We have leads of all of those areas. They're all in the public Discord. You can go in there, you can tag them and say, hey, these are my qualifications. I would like to help you out, and then you can, and then you can, and then they'll talk to you and basically just try to gather what you want to do and how you can help out. Now there has to be some at least minor process to letting people in, right? Because if we just let literally every single person in, then we're not going to get the highest quality people. We just get filled with too many people just talking about whatever and not actually doing work, or just leaking information that shouldn't be leaked, right? So we do like to talk with people for a little bit, earn their trust a little bit, and then bring them in, and then really start to get them going. But it's usually just like everything in crypto, it's a really fast process, right? So I just wanted to say, by the way, we created, for people online, a Reddit post was created where you can go and list questions on there, and the top ones that got upvoted on Reddit will be the first ones asked when the people in the audience here are done.
And I just want to make a comment, guys, on contributing to the Bitcoin private project. And this is not just contributing code, right? The best way to contribute to the project, if you believe in privacy and you believe in Bitcoin, guys, is to see what the project needs and just go do it. Like when our team saw that we needed to organize an event for Bitcoin private, we did a test event, like an informal one in the crypto in Frisco in North Dallas yesterday with Jake. I told him, I said, hey, we should you should come down here and we should just do a test conference and talk about Bitcoin private. And if it works out and we're able to work together, let's do one real quick in Austin. And that's how this came together, And we put it together and we just cranked it out. And in less than a week, we did 2 conferences, one informally in Dallas and then one formally in Austin right now. And this became the first official conference, right? You don't need to ask for permission, guys, when it comes to Bitcoin, because it's a permissionless system. Wherever you feel the need that can be contributed, you just go do it. Like the guys from New York here, when they saw that we were doing here and we told them that we have more people registered than we thought, they just started coming in here and helping us clear out the room, because when we told them that we needed a bigger room. That's how you contribute to the project. Don't ask for permission, you just go do it. The other thing too is this, raise your hand real quick, Kirk. Raise your hand. Okay, there's Kirk right there from touchtitans.com, right? I mentioned to him that, hey man, we really, really need for this to be highly secured. We need to have ledger support. And he didn't ask permission. I just mentioned that to him. It would be really nice if we had ledger support. And he went and, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but he went and coded up some stuff so that the ledger can support Z Classic and future Bitcoin private. And boom, he submitted it to Rhett, and Rhett posted out there and asked people to review it. If you're a coder out there, you understand how to write code or read it, review it, go review it. There's a bunch of people that put those code up there. If you can just review it and double check it and let Rhett know, that's a huge contribution. If you're good on Twitter, help us tweet it out. If you're good at making videos about Bitcoin private, do it. If you're like Regan and you're a big privacy advocate and you can spread the word about the importance of privacy, right? Go do it. You don't need to ask permission, and then you do it, and if it doesn't work out or get the response that you want, just adapt, redo it, or ask Rhett or Jake or somebody in the community how it can be done better, and then just go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to add, you can also help if you're a miner by going to our fund.zclassic.org. I had to do that.
Hi, this is for Rhett. I was just wondering your take on proof of stake, and if it turns out successful in Ethereum, is that something that's in the future for Bitcoin private, or are you going to stick with whatever Bitcoin Core does?
I think that we have some questions right there to consider. I mean, if you there are some people that I respect a lot that like Bram Cohen, for example, is very pessimistic about proof of stake, and so he's actually working on an alternative, sort of consensus algorithm that's like proof of space and time. you know, I think of all the proof of stake algorithms that are out there, many of them may appear to work because they're actually centralized, and it's really hard to know whether or not they're centralized. And if that's, you know, if that's the case, it's like, well, why then we don't have a decentralized censorship-resistant system to begin with? So, so I think that probably one of the more honest proof of stake projects out there is Casper, right? And we'll have to see. I know Ethereum is throwing a lot of resources at that, and we'll see. You know, once you actually get into a proof of stake system, it becomes also really hard to have very many participants. So, you know, I think maybe Casper even is thinking maybe like 100 stakeholders is basically where it will limit out, and that's very different from you know, proof of work, where you can have, you know, thousands and thousands of people with GPU miners all around the world. So you know, we will definitely look at we're going to want to look at the industry and where, you know, how new technologies actually affect these other coins, and that's sort of how we, you know, what we did initially to create Bitcoin Private, right? We weren't the first Bitcoin fork, but we're able to see these other Bitcoin forks like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold and learn from their success and what worked and what didn't. And so we're going to continue to do that and look at other coins. But there's no plans right now to switch to any proof of stake system. Bram Cohen of Chia Network, Chia Coin or something.
This question is for either Jake or Rhett. I'm not sure. I'll let you guys pick. I'm a newbie. I'm literally 30 days into crypto, and so I don't know a lot of this stuff already, so I'm kind of learning as I go. I would love to understand the mechanics of the fork. One of the things Rhett said a few minutes ago is when the fork occurs, you want both currencies to be active. So does that mean in one wallet, you'll fork to be a Bitcoin Private, and another wallet you'd keep ZCL? Can you explain some of that? Like I said, I'm a newbie.
Yeah, sure. So the basic idea, you have a private key, right? And right now you might have a private key that controls a Bitcoin, and you might have a private key that controls a Z Classic. And if you have this private key that controls a Z Classic, when the network forks, you'll still have that private key that controls that Z Classic, but that same private key, you will now be able to use that to control a Bitcoin Private. And so if you have one Z Classic, you will keep your one Z Classic, and you will also get a Bitcoin Private. And if you have one Bitcoin, you'll keep your Bitcoin, and you'll also get one Bitcoin Private, right? And so that's just, I guess, sort of like the higher level. So what'll happen is if you have like an Electrum wallet or something, and you're holding your Z Classic in an Electrum wallet, then what you'll be able to do is download the Bitcoin Private Electrum wallet, and you'll just import the same private key from your Z Classic into your Bitcoin Private Electrum wallet, and now you'll be able to control your Bitcoin Private coin. So that's sort of from the user's perspective, the mechanics of how it works. That's not. Were you asking about sort of the fork in general, like how that's going to happen under the hood, or was it? Yeah, a little both. So basically, yeah, no one's ever done this, or I guess thought of this before. But honestly, I don't know. Like when I look, I mean, if you go and look at the code. I mean, the Bitcoin, so Satoshi, so okay, Zcash is a fork of the original Satoshi Bitcoin D C++ source code. And Z Classic is a fork of the Zcash fork of the Bitcoin like source code, right? And so Z Classic is actually running, you know, Satoshi Nakamoto contributed to Z Classic, right? It's all the same C++ code. And actually, what Zcash did, there's a lot of their edits in this main.cpp file. And I mean, it kind of makes it pretty easy to read. You can sort of see what's going on, but it's like all in main.cpp, right? And then what happens is, there's a few pieces to blockchain technology. Like the miners need to check that a block is valid. The miners need to check that a transaction is valid, right? And that's like a big part of what they're doing. And so, the miners are the ones that they have to agree on this consensus, right? And when Z Classic was launched, there's a set of rules, and everybody who's running a full node on Z Classic, they are running the software that agrees to like a certain set of rules. And so what we're going to do with what Bitcoin Private is just going to change those rules, right? And we're going to say, okay, if you're running this node, it's going to be using the same Z Classic blockchain, but at a certain height, we're going to change the rules, right? And then anyone can decide if they want to use those set of rules or the old rules, or they can mine one or the other, right? But what the new set of rules is going to do is it's going to set a window where between certain blocks, we're going to take the Bitcoin account balances and we're going to add them as special Coinbase input transactions into just directly into normal Z Classic blocks. So Z Classic blocks are about 2 megabytes, and I think we can fit about 10,000 transactions into each block. And so there's 65 million Bitcoin addresses with a positive balance. So that would be about 6,500 blocks, right? Would be required if you were putting 10,000 transactions into each block. So there's going to be a window for 6,500 blocks where the miners that are mining on the fork will actually mine these special fork blocks. And another part of the rules is that those blocks are going to have just lower difficulty for that window. So they're going to get mined like in like a second, or every few seconds or something. And so there will be this 6,500 block window where the blocks get mined really fast. The rules changed, and now if you're on that network, you're on Bitcoin Private. So that kind of.
Hey guys, I'm not sure which one of you wants to answer this, but I'm a miner and I represent a lot of miners. And so my question is, how is this going to work? So we've got a 21 million supply cap. You're going to have over 19 million coins. You're going to have, 1.5 or however many million left. Equihash is 2.5 minute blocks. Currently, the block size is 12.5. Is the block size going to change?
I believe so, yeah. I think.
Yes, we're going to have drastically reduced the block subsidy, right? Because we have to stay under the 21 million limit.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, well, the block subsidy will only last a few months. So can you speak to that? And
Sure. So I mean, currently, you have to remember Z Classic is a new coin relatively. So Z Classic follows the same coin emission schedule as the original Bitcoin. So in the original Bitcoin, it started out as 50 coins per block for 4 years, and then it halved after that to 25, right, for 4 years. And so what Z Classic does is there's 12.5 coins per block, but there's a block every 2.5 minutes. So it's the same 50 coins per 10 minutes, right? It's exactly the same emission schedule as Bitcoin. Now what that means is that we're actually only into like a year and a few months into, it would be like if you were in Bitcoin a year and a few months into it. And so at the current annualized inflation rate of Z Classic, it's about 85% inflation rate right now, right? And so that's a really high inflation rate. And so I don't know what to say. Like if you're a miner and you're trying to mine a coin, it's generally, if you're looking at the long-term success of the coin, right, it's definitely, there's a lot of benefit to the miners to be mining when there's a higher inflation rate. But when that inflation rate drops, now there's less benefit to the miners, right? But there's more benefit to the people that are holding this asset that doesn't inflate away as fast as the currency that we all hold, right? And that was sort of part of Satoshi's vision. So So yeah, right now the inflation rate in Z Classic is way worse than the dollar, right? At 85%. And after Bitcoin Private is formed, there definitely will be much lower inflation, and that's part of the balance is figuring out, okay, well how much inflation is needed to reward miners to keep a stable and secure network, and then balancing that against Satoshi's vision of a limited supply that can't be inflated away. We don't have an exact number set yet.
We should have, as we get closer and we can pick the block height exactly, it's going to be a little bit different depending on the hash rate and everything that's going on with with Bitcoin network specifically, and of course Z Classic as well, about how much it's going to be in the specific block height that we're yet to choose. We just know the snapshot date is going to be February 28th. So you can pretty much make an assumption between a very small range of, somewhere around 20 million or so, I believe. So somewhere around 1 million will be left.
But I have a question kind of back with his question. So part of like the whole like proof of work as it's scaling down, inflation decreases, then you have less incentivized for miners to mine it, right? But isn't that the solution of proof of stake, that you have a smaller group of miners that are actually mining it, which then they're actually getting transaction fees as the inflation rate decreases, so they're still operating the network, so the network doesn't slow down over time.
I mean, yeah, like these are, these are things that are theorized, right? And there's some, in some level we can look at blockchains that are using there's all kinds of different implementations, but I guess I don't know what, yes, that is sort of the overall outward goal of proof of stake, but there are also all these things that people don't like to publicize about their various proof of stake mechanisms, right? That may not be fair, and so we need to, in evaluating anything that would be different from Nakamoto consensus proof of work, we need to take any other proposal very seriously in evaluating the fairness and everything.
For Rhett, so we've seen the privacy sector really take off past few months. The other sector we're kind of seeing is coins that offer masternodes. One, what's your take on that? And two, is there any plans for one masternode?
It's funny. It's so funny. I know very little about masternodes. So that's like a thing I've heard a lot of support from the community for masternodes. Okay, people here like.
Hey, why don't you do a quick survey real quick?
Yeah. Okay. If you're in favor of masternodes, say aye. Wow. Okay. So this is something I know very little about, to be honest. And we have this big community here, and I think that I don't know, like. What I've asked the people to do actually is to put together proposals, because if you have kind of like what I did was I just sort of made something tangible, and then people can make the choice if they want to use it. So if you like masternodes and you actually write a pull request for masternodes, right? That's like something we can test and use, right? So So anyway, I'd like to say, so we can get some proposals for that, and it's something I know little about, but we obviously should learn more.
I just want to add a quick thing there. So, on our investing channel, we talk about different cryptocurrencies that we're interested in, and one of the big problems that we see in general, and everybody's been seeing, is with Bitcoin and the whole issue of governance. Right? So, and this is not government, okay? So it's not about involving the government, but it's about how do you make a final decision on what direction you should take. And we've seen that all these, we've seen Bitcoin Cash, we've seen Bitcoin Gold, because people can't come to a final decision, and they just end up saying, you know what, I'm just going to go do my own thing, which is, actually a pretty good thing. when we talk about master nodes, the first time I learned about master nodes was in London. We were talking to the Dash team. And the Dash team, they've got this master node model where effectively if you are an owner of a master node, you get to vote on proposals. And I'm not saying that this is exactly the model that should be followed here in Bitcoin Private, but if there is a governance model that whether it be voting through master nodes or through proposals, if there's a formal mechanism to do so, it really helps the project move forward because you have a final decision-making process. And so just in particular with master nodes, I lost my train of thought on that one, right?
I'll finish your train of thought for you. Hey, so this is something that I know that when we spoke last time, Rhett, you were concerned about implementing a governance process or a treasury. That's why isn't that the reason why you guys are asking about the master nodes, is to make sure the project has funding, right? Okay, well, why are you guys asking about the master node?
So that's like what I wasn't a miner like back in the day. I'm early adopter of Bitcoin. And I've actually switched to only proof of stake coins and stayed away from proof of work coins for this exact reason. One, that a lot of the development process is centralized to the core dev team. And so a masternode, one, enables everybody who's actually mining it has a stake in the coin. And then two, it also requires a lot less like specific hardware for actually operating the network. So instead of running all of these GPU miners, you're running them on very small, lightweight VPSs that can be ran in the cloud. It's a lot more energy efficient.
But you realize that the purpose, like one of the primary reasons for having a master node is to vote for updates to the network.
Sure, and it's
because you can stake coins without using a master node. You can stake and secure the network without even using a master node.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So the master nodes are designed so that the problem that David was talking about is that a lot of people, when they hear us talk about a governance process, they mistakenly think that we're talking about adding the government or involving the government to a project.
Yeah.
A governance process means a final decision-making and a resolution-making process, to where if, half the community wants to update Bitcoin Private with update A and the other half wants to update it with update B, there's a mechanism to vote on that. Right. And the masternode process is a way to where if you are a stakeholder in the network, that you get to submit your vote that, hey, I want update A or I want update B, and then when that vote is counted and it's done, then it gets implemented into the network. Right. So it doesn't take 3 years to implement an update such as SegWit.
Right.
Okay, so.
All right, one more question, and then we're going to take some questions from Reddit. Just hold on for the microphone.
Well, the masternode network, it's less, resource intensive. You can't discount the fact that mining is just a huge waste of electricity. Big point about masternode is a way to secure the network without, using all those intensive resources. And then, it's another way for, I guess, voting or whatever, but that doesn't have to be like the only, stipulation. You could have like multiple variables for weighted votes or consensus.
I want to say I think we all understand what they are, right? We're just kind of belaboring the point right now. I want to say, first of all, I love our mining community, and the last thing I want to do is push them out, especially right now while we're asking them to help us. No, absolutely not. So I want to make that clear right off the bat right now, and I want to switch to these. I want to switch away from this conversation because it's been going on for a while and move to the Reddit questions. I don't want to cut you off, but we know what masternodes are. We know what proof of stake is. We're considering it. We're thinking about it.
It's not going to be implemented at the fork. It's not on the roadmap, at least, by the next.
There's just not enough time right now, but that doesn't mean it's not something that we're thinking about. We promise that we're constantly thinking about how we're going to update everything after the fork, before the fork, I promise. Now, go to the Reddit questions. Who's got Reddit pulled up? Ty?
Hey, while Jake is pulling up the questions from Reddit, guys, one of the things that when we look at a project, guys, that we really pay attention to is what is the mindset behind the developer or the creator of the project. And I think that, we've been fortunate to talk to Rhett. We spent time with him on lunch before, and we've talked to him offline, when I first met him. And he has a lot of insights onto why he's doing this. A lot of people, I think that it's unfair online that a lot of people are accusing him of going after a money grab or going after just building random blockchain projects. And I just want you guys to realize something, okay? And I could be totally wrong on this, but when I first met Rhett and our team met him and we had lunch with him and we didn't record the conversation, which most of the stuff that we talked to him about, we should have recorded it for you guys, right? But one of the things that I found out was that, he is a computer science, he's a computer scientist. And what do scientists do? They love to experiment. You guys agree? They experiment and they want to solve a problem and they experiment on things. He just happens to be a computer scientist. He's not like a biologist, he's not like a chemist or an astronomer or something. His specialty is in computer science. And he sees a problem that is arising in the Bitcoin community. There's lots of problems, right, that he sees that we may not see because we're not computer scientists like he is. And he's trying to tackle the problems, the biggest problems first, and privacy is one of them that he's tackling, right? But I'd like you to share in your own words, like some of your the inspiration you have, like when you shared with us offline, like talk about how you were experimenting on Z Classic, on these different projects, and now what are you hoping to accomplish with Bitcoin Private so that they hear it directly from you and not random trolls online? Straight from the horse's mouth,
Yeah.
right?
Thanks.
Yeah. Share with people why you're building this project.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I actually don't really know how to address that. But I think that so I've been involved in cryptocurrency for a few years now, and we actually saw a few years ago there was sort of just Bitcoin. And then there was Litecoin and Dogecoin came around, right? So in 2014, we sort of saw the introduction of these altcoins, and now we're seeing kind of this introduction of Bitcoin forks, and a lot of people who are getting into cryptocurrency, they're familiar with Bitcoin, right? And everybody knows that there's this huge need for privacy coins right now. And actually, if you look, it's like, we all know that it's almost like not even worth going over because we went over it. But if you look at like the history of global finance, it was the whole history of the world's global finance, everything was so much more private until just 20 years ago, right? Everything became electronic. And now all of a sudden we just lost all this privacy in the past 20 years. And a lot of people act like that's normal, right? And it's really not. And but if we look at these privacy-oriented cryptocurrencies, some of the best ones were Monero and Zcash, right? But you have this problem. Monero's really proud of the fact that they're not using Satoshi's code base, and so they're proud that they didn't fork and they innovated. But what that means is that integration is different for Monero than for a Bitcoin fork. Right? And so if you're an exchange and you've learned how to integrate Bitcoin or Bitcoin forks, you now have to spend a whole lot more resources integrating Monero. And then Monero has like these really long sync times. It's like a day just to synchronize your full node to Monero. And then there's all these other gotchas. I don't know if people have used Monero, but it's like a learning process, right? Especially even if you're used to Bitcoin. So I recognize the need for, Z Classic is based already on the Bitcoin Satoshi source code. And so we can actually provide that promise, right? Of like, well, what's a Zcash or a Monero? Well, who knows like what those are really supposed to be. But for people that want to use Bitcoin and they want privacy, we can, I think that is the responsibility of this project, is to deliver that. And it was obvious that there was a lot of demand for that, right? But then we just needed to sort of tweak a few different things and learn some of the lessons that we learned from the existing Bitcoin forks, and then kind of look at, okay, like how is a block structured? Well, a block has Coinbase input transactions and some other transactions. There's a few different things. And we came up with this process to do a fork from Z Classic into a Bitcoin fork. So I don't know, that's kind of my like overall thinking, I guess, of what we could do.
All right, so we're going to take the first question from Reddit. And as we all know, they ask the most important questions. The number one question is, if Vietnamese thugs with baseball bats come for my taco tokens,
Do you want me to read it? Or
no. How do we prevent them from stealing my Model T parked on the moon? That's the number one upvoted with I would put it on Mars maybe. I don't know. Does anyone here have a good answer for that? I wasn't joking.
Okay, if Vietnamese thugs with baseball bats come for my taco tokens, how do we prevent them from stealing my Model T parked on the moon? Okay, so the first thing we gotta do is we.
There's no good answer to this question.
Okay, the best thing to do is to protect your tokens. Okay, not just Bitcoin Private or Z Classic or anything, you know. Against people with baseball bats, you know, is what you do is you make sure you use a hardware wallet. And I'm glad that he brought that up because we had several questions in the live chat that asked about the ledger support. So can you explain a little bit about like what does it take, like when Kirk sends in those lines of code to get ledger support so that people can store their Z Classic on a hardware ledger? What is the next stage after it gets submitted to ledger?
I'm not going to be able to give a good technical answer for that right now, but basically, I mean, yeah, there are some pull requests that are sitting in Ledger's repository right now, and they need to review them. And typically, I mean, who's it, Nicholas, the CTO of Ledger, he's usually really responsive. I think they're a little overwhelmed at the moment. But yeah, we want to. I've built some custom Ledger hardware applications, and they require loading them on manually with the Python utilities. So that's not really an option for like the normal user. But that would be, you know, that would be an interesting, like, I mean, it's not that hard, but it's like the first step was to play with that, and it's actually pretty fun. If any developers want to try it, you can look at sort of some of the Ledger applications and try importing new apps on your Ledger Nano. And so that would be, you know, I mean, that's the first step, but just getting them to review the pull request and pull it in. So Ledger actually has like an app store, and they already support a bunch of coins in their app store, and it's just a matter of you know, they're going to need to just review our pull request and make sure that it's not trying to steal anyone's coins, and then they'll review it, and then it'll go into their app store.
Okay.
So the next most upvoted one is to Leon, who I don't think is here.
Okay, what's the question?
Since Leon Food joined just now, I think they think you're Leon, David.
Yeah, all the Asians look the same. Huh?
Maybe we need a better webcam. Could he evaluate a bit about the potential valuation of Bitcoin Private? I don't think you can answer that question.
Yeah.
So
our
no.
lawyers said we cannot discuss
answer that question.
Price or valuation or market cap, guys.
But also, Leon's not here.
Yeah.
So the next good question is actually one that I can answer, which is, will Z address be enabled by default? So this is something that just, as far as I understand it from our developers, can be done within the wallet. And we are absolutely going to put something like that out. And it would be in combination with something that has transparent wallet as default as well. So you can choose. I mean, we're all about choice. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to choose a wallet that can do either or if that's what you prefer. So That's definitely something that we're thinking about. It's not going, probably won't come out until after the fork, but it is something that we've definitely put on our post-fork roadmap that is yet to be released. I have to refresh and see if anything else has come up. So, Rhett, this might be a good, this is a question for you, I think, which is, why not just burn Z Classic after the snapshot to prevent manipulation leading up to and after the fork?
I don't understand. So burn.
I think he's saying just to basically completely remove Z Classic, so when the snapshot happens, just completely destroy the project.
Yeah, so we thought about that. I mean, that was I sort of talked about that. We thought about sort of trying to coerce and force the Z Classic project to die and kind of turn into Bitcoin private. And you know, the history of Z Classic actually. I mean, I don't know. I like, it's hard to talk about it without mentioning price, right? But basically, you know, I created Z Classic, and there were a bunch of people that joined that community early on because they were interested in privacy, and then a few months later, they all said, hey, you know what we want to do is we want to introduce like a 10% developer fund to Z Classic, and I said, no, you can't. Like, the innovation of Z Classic was just a Zcash with no founder's reward, and you can't just put one in. Again, like that, we can't do that, right? And they were like, well, we need to do it to make more progress. And I was like, well, look, you can do that and you can fork, but like Z Classic has to be, it's just Zcash with no founder's reward. That's all it is, right? It's really dumb and simple, but like that, I don't know, but like it's simple. It's like that's all it is. So they formed the Zen community. They forked off of Z Classic, and most of those people, I think, sold their Z Classic, right? And if you looked at the price, this is just the past price. It was like Z Classic started around $3 or $4, and then there was a fork coming up, and then it went up to $8, and then it's actually split, and so the total combined was worth more than Z Classic in the beginning. And like a few months ago, a Zen coin was like $40 a coin or something, and a Z Classic was like $2 a coin, right? So they had all kind of just sold out of, and they had left, and they stopped participating in Z Classic. And now what we're seeing now, there's this second fork that's coming out of Z Classic. So, you know, and all of those people that sold their Z Classic probably like wish that they didn't at that point, right? And so, you know, like who knows, I don't know what the future is going to be for Z Classic, but it may be the case that it's a good platform to launch future forks off of, because everybody knows that it's a fairly launched proof of work mined ZK Snark coin with no founder's reward or anything.
All right, that was a good question and a good answer. We're gonna do one more question, and then we're gonna call it a day, and probably just mingle. We'll have another 40 minutes in the room, and then we can go over to the step and repeat banner, take some pictures, things like that. So the last question is a great one. It's for Rhett, and it says, what was it like being in the 1989 True Blood film?
Oh, that one. That's interesting, because I thought they were going to mention Crocodile Dundee 2, because I actually I just found out Crocodile Dundee 2, I had a larger part in Crocodile Dundee 2, but it was actually nominated, Crocodile Dundee 2 was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Crocodile Dundee, no, Crocodile Dundee 1. Sorry, Crocodile Dundee 1, not the second one. Sorry, anyway, I thought that was amazing. Yeah, so True Blood, it was actually with, I played Chad Lowe as a younger age, which was Rob Lowe's brother, right, that nobody's ever heard. Chad Lowe didn't quite make it. And then, and my older brother in the film was the guy who played the lawnmower man. I don't remember his name. And then I had this really heartbreaking scene where I had to walk around a train station, and he left me, and I went, Ray! And then he was gone. So That was what it was like.
All right, that's a great last question.
Okay, so let's so we don't have confusion here, guys. At the back, when we go back there and take some pictures with Rhett and everyone, you're gonna be handling the camera. Okay, so David here is going to be handling the camera back there. You want to go ahead and set it up? So,
And just give us a few moments. We're going to get everyone on the team back there quickly. We want to take some pictures by the step and repeat banner for everyone that's been a part of this, and then
Hey,
people who want to take pictures and talk
just-
with us and everything, you can start joining in.
hey,
afterwards,
just real quick too. Can you come up here, Adeem?
Oh.
Okay.
Someone just wants to know that, this is a good one actually that we should really address, which is, can we make donations to the multi-sig account to join in on the minor program, or do direct donations have to go to the existing donation addresses listed in the sidebar? So
Hey,
you can
Jay,
donate direct.
Let's bring Adeem up and explain
Yeah. Well, what I have to just say is that the answer is no. You cannot, you can directly donate, but you will not be a part of the program. So if you had one Z Classic and you sent it to our multi-signature wallet, we cannot send you back Bitcoin private for that. So
it has to come from
it has to come from hash power. It has to come from hash power. So if you are a miner, how many miners are in here, by the way? Awesome.
Hey.
Nice. We love you guys.
Hey.
How many of you are going to join this program?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Hold on, just real
Not
quick.
bad.
Okay, so when you guys say maybe, what's the holdup or what's the sticking point?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I mean, it just,
so
there's the whole reason for it is that we need, funding. And so we just can't do that. Otherwise, that would defeat the entire purpose of it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, what we would be really happy with is if people who absolutely cannot afford, it's like for the people who are planning on mining and keeping Z Classic through the fork, this should help them, right? Because Bitcoin Private's going to be the big coin after the fork. We all know that that's what's going to happen. So this actually this should work out really well if you are planning as a miner to hold it through the fork. But if you aren't, and you're just using that to, pay bills and do things like that, essentially what we would ask of you is to, move your hash power somewhere else. And in that case, you can still get your funds. You reduce the network difficulty for us and allow us to get a higher percentage of it. Now, let's just put this into perspective. If we can get, right now we're at like 20%. If we can get to 50% hash power, we'll be done in 14 days. So if we can just get to that number, if we get to 100%, we'd be done in 7 days. So if we can just get up to those higher numbers, we'll be done with the program really quickly, and then everyone can come back and return to it. So it's really all about just everyone coming together, working together as a community, helping us build Bitcoin Private, which it will, right? I mean, we'll be able to spend a lot more funds on development. We'll be able to actually pay some of our developers instead of them just doing volunteer work. We're able to do marketing, which will help us get our name out there even more, should improve, everything around the project, which should help everybody who is a part of the community.
So just to be clear, if you're a miner and you don't want to participate in the fund, you can help by not mining Z Classic right now.
Yeah.
You can help by mine Ethereum, mine Monero, right? Mine anything else, and that actually helps right now.
Hey, do you want to take a moment just to explain it? Because I don't think we've ever explained it.
I kind of did during my talk.
Okay.
But essentially, it's that if you join it, every Z Classic that gets donated through hashing power will turn into 1.25 Bitcoin Private after the fork. So what's happening right now is you put your Z Classic wallet address in. We can take that Z Classic wallet address and we can register how much Z Classic it's been earning during that time, while all of it goes to our contribution team or our governance fund, right? And then when we after the fork, what happens is we will generate. Let's say we raise that actual 50,000. We will generate 62.5 thousand Bitcoin Private, and all of that will go directly to the miners who helped in that contribution program, right? So that's why we don't call it a pre-mine, because in a pre-mine, all of the funds go right back to the core development team. That's not what's happening. Basically, you're being allowed to mine Bitcoin private right now before it's even out, essentially. And you're getting an added incentive in order to make you do that, because otherwise, why not just keep mining Z Classic? You'd get the same amount, right? But in this case, you get a 25% bonus on what Bitcoin private you would get otherwise. So that's sort of what's happening. Does that make sense? Yeah, we got a question. We can't. We can't. It's 25, but we literally can't, and it's illegal.
Let's repeat the question.
Yeah,
for the
sorry.
audience at
So
home.
the question is why can't people who've already mined it just donate the Z Classic since they've already mined it? It doesn't matter. At this point, they've mined it. It's now theirs. So in essence, essentially what the program is doing is you're essentially working for us, kind of, right? By donating hashing power, whereas in the other case, if you're giving us funds and we're returning back other kinds of funds, we're doing an ICO. And ICOs take months to set up. You have to set up a nonprofit. That's a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort, right? Not a lot of effort necessarily, but it's something that just, with a 1 month to the fork date, that's just not really a viable way to raise funds when it would take us 4 months to set up that kind of process and make it legal. Yeah, no problem.
So basically what you're doing is you're just loaning the network your GPUs for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
and
so
really,
it's-
guys, if you want Bitcoin private to succeed and not goof around, right? Like these guys said, if you guys can point those GPUs towards the contribution pool or point it somewhere else, either way, it will help. So that the faster it gets done, the faster that these guys can bring on the development team and get it moving forward. Because the longer it takes, guys, all it's going to do is just stall. Okay.
Yeah. So let's call it quits. We're
Okay,
gonna move
so-
back to the corner. We're gonna take some pictures.
Yeah,
We've got
Eric,
30
you're
minutes
back
to
there.
hang out.
If you guys
so-
can form a line over here, guys.